Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar hosted today by Forrester and Helpshift. Today, we'll be covering the topic of riding the AI wave in customer service, talking about a pragmatic approach to contact center transformation. Before we get started this morning, we have just a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is going to be recorded, and the slides will be shared via email for all the participants. Please submit your questions to the presenters using the chat window. And additionally, we'll be sharing some more resources after today's webinar. So today, I'm hosting the webinar with Kate Leggett from Forrester. I'm Linda Crawford, and I am the Chief Executive Officer at Helpshift. Helpshift is an AI and bot-powered conversational customer service platform, a full end-to-end platform. And prior to Helpshift, I was an executive at Siebel Systems back in the early CRM days and spent 9 years at Salesforce, most recently running the Sales Cloud product. I'm really excited today to be joined by another CRM industry veteran, Kate Leggett. Kate's the VP Principal Analyst at Forrester Consulting. Welcome, Kate.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Linda, and thank you to all of you who have taken an hour out of your busy days to listen to Linda and I talk. So I lead the CRM practice at Forrester Research, and I'm focused on how CRM, customer service technologies, can be used by companies to deliver better customer experiences. So on that topic, let's start this webinar. And let's start about talking about the importance of differentiated customer experiences. And all you have to do is just look around you. We're surrounded by these differentiated experiences. I mean, think, for example, Uber or Lyft, the way that they've taken all anxiety out of being able to request a ride and get to your destination on time. You've got full visibility into the cost of your ride, the time that you're going to get to your destination, who your driver is. And it really gives you great comfort in being able to get to your destination. Same for Waze. Waze is aggregating community input with the GPS location trackers to optimize your route to your destination. Amazon, I always joke and say Amazon knows more about me than my husband does. Amazon is able to recommend purchases based on my buying history. You think about Nest, that optimizes your home environment based on your family patterns. And why think about these experiences? It's because these consumer grade experiences, like the Amazons, like the Ubers and Lyfts and Wazes, they've really up-leveled our expectations for engagement. And we take these expectations for engagement into every interaction that we have, either in our lives as consumers or in our business lives. And at Forrester, we say that we're in the age of the customer. Customers, like all of us here on the webinar, we're empowered today. We control the conversation that we have with companies that we do business with. And what does this mean for companies? Is companies have to be obsessed with delivering these differentiated, these great experiences to their customers to be able to garner their satisfaction and their long-term loyalty. And so you think, what are the expectations for engagement that our customers have? And at Forrester, we use a very, I was going to say easy, we use this framework of 3 E's to talk about what customers expect out of interactions. We say that customers expect easy interactions. They expect to be able to effortlessly, with very little friction, be able to interact over the channel of their choice, the device, the touch point of their choice, to be able to connect with a company. They expect effective interactions to get their issues fully resolved in a personal way and in context to what they're doing. And at the end of the day, they want to walk away from that interaction feeling good about having done business with the company. And that's what we mean by emotion. So why do we care about delivering these experiences? It's because, like the title of the slide, good customer experiences are good for business. Differentiated experiences impact three drivers of customer loyalty. A satisfied customer will keep their business with you for a longer amount of time. They will buy more from you, and that increases their average customer lifetime value. And they will serve as a company advocate, recommending your products, your company to their network. And this drives second order sales. And these three drivers of loyalty, retention, customer enrichment, and advocacy, have a quantifiable impact on top line revenue. And at Forrester, we go even a step further, and we try to quantify the impact that great customer experiences have in dozens and dozens of industries. And every year, the way that we do this is that every year we measure the customer experience that hundreds of companies that we organize in dozens and dozens of industries deliver. And then we calculate the revenue impact that these companies can realize if they delivered just an incrementally better customer experience score, just a 1% better customer experience score than what they do today. And that is all the data that you're seeing in the far right-hand corner. This is the quantifiable revenue impact that better customer experiences have on these businesses. And again, at Forrester, we take it a step further and we correlate these financial models with case studies of companies that have gone through customer experience transformation efforts. And the takeaway is that in every industry that we have data on, delivering better customer experiences have a quantifiable impact to top line revenue. So that's why you care about great customer experiences. And what's happening in the customer service arena is that companies know that delivering these great customer experiences are important to their customers. And what they're doing is they're making it easier for customers to interact with them. They're opening up new channels, making it easier for customers to interact with them. And so what they find is that customers are interacting with companies more and more. And what customer service organizations are doing to be able to deliver, to be able to deal with these increased contact volumes and to deliver better customer experiences is that they're adding headcount to manage these ballooning interaction volumes. And so that's what you're seeing on the screen here. And so let me try to explain this eye chart. From the left to the right, you see the headcount growth in different types, in different sizes of contact centers. To the left of the screen, you've got the smallest contact centers, 50 to 99 seats. And to the right, you've got the very large contact centers of 5,000 and more seats. And so look at the light green bar in each of these columns. That's the number of contact center seats that these contact centers are projected to add. And the light green is that the contact centers are going to increase by 5 to 10% in number of agents. The dark green bar is the number of contact centers that are projected to grow by 10% or more in terms of agent seats. And this is saying that the bigger your contact center, the more agents you're going to add to your contact center in the next year. And this approach is economically unsustainable. And what enterprises have to do, they've got to reimagine their operations with automation and AI at the center of their strategy to be able to not only deliver these great customer experiences, but to tame these ballooning agent headcounts. So, Linda, what are you seeing at Helpshift? And what are your customers, what are your brands asking you for?
Yeah, couldn't agree more with the impetus for brands to change because of these spiraling cost increases. But the good news is help is on the way with all of these new technologies across AI and bots and messaging. So in our business, we're seeing brands rapidly move to more and more digital experiences. And we're excited that messaging is sort of the framework with which these new experiences are going to occur. And what I love about messaging and these new paradigms is that it begins to allow the consumers to have more power over when and how they interact with the brands. I like to say with messaging and asynchronous messaging, which we'll talk about a little bit later, consumers can now interact with brands at their convenience and not at the convenience of the brand. We've all get very frustrated when we hear that the service and support center is only open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in your local time zone. And for those of us who have busy lives, that just becomes more and more impossible. And we know that as consumers today, we're spending about 30 to 50% of all of our time on our digital devices, what are called phones, which are kind of funny that they're called phones because we don't use them to call anyone anymore. If we're spending all that time on messaging, we really understand this way to have a conversation with one another, and why not have a conversation with a brand using that kind of metaphor to get your issue solved.
Yeah, and what Linda said as well is, so we're moving to messaging, but like it says on the screen here, messaging and channels like messaging are really lending themselves to automation. I mean, these conversations are not just agent-assisted conversations, but they're also automated conversations. And I want to digress a little bit and talk about the power of AI and automation, because it is so fundamental in the digital transformation that companies are going through to not only deliver better customer experiences, but to also make operations more effective. And again, AI and automation, it's got these technologies have the ability to automate all repetitive agent interactions. And what this is doing, it's leaving the agents to focus on the tasks that require insight and analysis, to focus on nurturing and building customer relationships. So those higher value tasks. And so here on the screen, you're looking at some data from Forrester, where we asked business leaders what the biggest benefits to automation and AI were. And they all, and what they said, it's not about squeezing out costs or making operations more efficient. The real benefit of AI and automation is to improve the customer experience and customer service. And again, why do you want to do this? It's that whole narrative on better customer experiences are good for business, because it positively impacts your top line revenue growth. So at Forrester, I get asked a lot, what is AI? And the way that we look at AI at Forrester is that it's not a singular technology. It's a set of discrete, pragmatic building blocks that help add intelligence to existing applications today. So it's, again, technologies like speech recognition, like natural language understanding, natural language processing, machine learning, image analysis. And these are, again, discrete technologies that are commercially viable today, that either individually or in combination with one another, we can use them to add intelligence to applications like our customer service applications, so that the applications get smarter. They can learn over time. They can predict the next best step. They can adapt, and they can potentially even operate autonomously. And so don't think about AI as an uber, a category of, or a singular technology. They are really discrete building blocks of intelligence that infuse applications today. And they're already being used in customer service. And AI is able today to yield quantifiable benefits, from increasing productivity and efficiency at the low end to, at the high end, even transforming business models. I mean, just to quickly explain some of the benefits that we see AI providing in customer service applications today is, again, at the lower end of increasing productivity and efficiency. AI can help, for example, help optimize call routing, or automatically classify cases, or escalate cases based on sentiment, help in process optimization. Moving along the value chain, AI can also help reduce friction by supporting the customer in their end-to-end journey. For example, as well, automating customer conversations using virtual agents or chatbots, or monitoring a customer's journey on the website and proactively engaging the customer at the right point in their journey with an offer or with an invitation to engage, like an invitation to chat, to help drive conversion and revenue. And at the high end, AI can help fuel preemptive service, again, predict customer behavior, or in a connected world, even predict equipment failure and intervene before equipment fails or before the customer is ready to leave. So what are you seeing in your customers, in your customer base at Helpshift? How are you using AI to drive better outcomes, Linda?
Yeah, you know, we've seen a lot of brands do some pilots. We've all heard about some of the AI mishaps, and I think that caused brands to pause, not knowing whether or not that the technology was really ready for prime time. And I think in 2018, we're seeing some really great results from within our customer base, and this will only get better over the course of the next several years. Specifically, and one of the easiest things to get going on AI is just to think about, how do you surface your FAQs or your answers to your questions in a way that's backed by machine learning. And we have a product called AnswerBot, and we now are seeing 10 to 15% higher deflection rates over and above what we already saw, which were very, very high deflection rates, by the use of AnswerBot, which is serving up these FAQs kind of right in line, right within the messaging experience. So that's exciting. And again, this is really easy for a brand to start with. The next is, how do you, as you were saying, route and classify incoming issues? We have a product called Predict, and at one of our biggest customers, they've already saved over 160,000 agent hours in just 2 months. And we all know that in some large call centers, some of the supervisors' full-time job is just to tag, classify, and route, which isn't the most exciting job in the world. So when a machine can do this, then supervisors can get on to higher order kind of work, like onboarding and training their agents or improving the internal processes of the contact center. And lastly, a lot of companies are afraid of just the black box nature of these models, and how do I train them myself, and how long does it take to train, and how much heavy lifting is involved? Do I need a data scientist? And our approach really is to put AI in the hands of just your contact managers, supervisors, and analysts, and to allow the agents some power here to reclassify anything that hasn't been classified accurately from the get-go. And this only helps to improve the model over time. And I think for the agents, the call center managers have more confidence in the machine learning algorithms themselves. So really fantastic results, and they happen very, very quickly, which is probably the most exciting thing in all of this. And I know, you all have done a lot of research on this issue, and I think one of the things that we see is just how do you get started, and where do you go to get on
Yeah.
this journey?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I get asked that all the time as well. I mean, as I'm sure you do, it's with all this goodness that AI can provide. Um, Looking back at the value chain that I just presented, it's like, where do you start? And the way I think about it is, first of all, put your customer in the center of the conversation and look at what customers expect out of engagement. They want easy, effective engagement. Here's a great data point from Forrester that says that's almost 3/4 of customers, 73% say that valuing their time is the most important way to provide them with good service. It doesn't mean you have to answer them right away, but you have to value their time. You want to provide them with the full, complete answer to their question or the full resolution to their problem in a personal way and fully in context to the particular situation. This is your data point.
I know. And, you all do such great deep research. And we just had a fun survey asking just some very basic questions about the state of how Americans feel about contacting their brands. And 44% of Americans say they would rather spend 30 minutes cleaning their bathroom than waiting on hold for customer service. And this is why we're excited about messaging, because you can engage brands again, like on your time, and the brands can work for you when you are away. And I think that's what we all want. We want, as you said, just to have our time respected.
Yeah, and so here's some more data from Forrester, where we say customers today are using self-service channels as a first point of contact. They're going to your website, looking through your FAQs, your knowledge base, community answers, self-service in an IVR, or they're using chatbots or virtual agents. And why are they going to self-service? Because if you do self-service right, it allows your customers to engage with almost no friction, to be able to get connected to the right answer to their question, or the right resolution to the problem, or even to get a transaction done effectively. But again, it's not just about self-service. It's about self-service that if it fails, being able to seamlessly escalate to an agent interaction and be able to have the full context of what you've done on self-service passed to the agent. So the agent is valuing your time and understands your problem, understands what you've done, and is able to get to that quick answer. And so what you're looking at on the screen here are all the agent assisted modalities that customers are using today. Voice, digital, and you see that messaging is it's a new channel that's trending up. They also want to visually connect if that's the best way to be able to communicate their problem and get an answer to their question. So what we see is that because customers go to self-service as a first point of contact, the starting point of many AI projects is getting your knowledge base in order. It's almost like building a house. You've got to get those foundational components in place before you can add on to them. So knowledge management or knowledge bases is one of those foundational elements that allow customers to be able to serve themselves. Knowledge bases, modern knowledge bases allow customers to ask a question in natural language. They understand a customer's intent, and then they're able to deliver an answer in context. And the knowledge bases also have machine learning algorithms to be able to optimize the organization of content, the relevance of search results, and be able to bubble up the right answer based on the customer's profile and the issue at hand. And then knowledge management, if it's done well, it's got real ROI, like what I'm showing on the screen here, from helping improve customer satisfaction, again, because you're valuing a customer's time or decreasing operational costs, driving compliance and revenue. But again, your knowledge base is that foundational element for your curated content, your answers. But customers also sometimes don't know what question to ask, and they want to have a back and forth conversation to be able to help understand the actual issue at hand. And that's where chatbots come into play. And Linda.
Yeah, so I thought it might be good to show sort of what does this all look like? You know, what would it be like if to be a consumer um, working with a bot and having answers to my questions answered that are backed by AI and machine learning? So here we see on the right a conversational experience where the support entity is saying, you know, how can we help you? And as a consumer, you can just type in a response. And in this case, it's, I need help with some sizes. Here, below that message, we see a list of a few FAQs that may be able to help. Now, what happens in between this blue message bubble and the articles being viewed by the consumer is that we've detected the intent, meaning a question about sizing, which is the AI-powered part of that. And then here, through a bot, we surface the top 3 potential responses. I like to say this is the easiest and safest way to start with AI and bots. We've all heard some stories about how bots can get a little ahead of themselves and learn to maybe communicate inappropriate things. But when you are surfacing up FAQs that are curated by you from your own knowledge base, it's really, really difficult for any kind of bot or AI to go kind of off the rails, I like to say. So here, if the articles are satisfactory, then the consumer just says, yes, that helped me, and they're on their way. Or if not, if they really want to continue in a process, either to be handed off to another bot or at this point to an agent, it's really up to the brand to decide the experience. They can escape and say, no, I want to talk to someone in this case. So like you said earlier, this helps with deflection. It drives ROI. It drives up the customer satisfaction to be able to respond to issues very, very quickly. So it helps everybody all the way around.
Yeah, and another point that you alluded to, Linda, is these projects or when you launch a combination of knowledge and bots to your customers, you want to start small, and you want to be able to make sure that the experience and the results and the interactions that you are delivering to your customers are working for your customers and are in line with your brand proposition. And we actually see bots and knowledge being deployed in 3 ways. Linda, you talked about customer-facing bots, where you've got your customers where bots are delivering or supporting an automated conversation with your customers. What we also see very often are agent-facing bots. Again, the bots are helping surface the right data, the right answers to the agent in line with the work that the agent is doing. So the agent doesn't reactively have to go spend time looking for that content. It's being a surface to them, and then the agent can concentrate on listening to the customer or nurturing that relationship. And sometimes this is a very safe way to experiment with bots, again, because your agents will be more forgiving when a bot fails compared to your customers. And the third way that we see bots being implemented is where bots and agents are working together to support the customers, where an interaction and a conversation is being passed from the bot to the agent. For example, think about renewing your car insurance. The bot can be gathering, for example, your car make, model number, VIN, vehicle identification number, and then pass all that information to the agent to be able to continue the conversation. Again, valuing the agent's time because they're focused on selling you, getting you the right policy instead of doing the information collecting. Linda, do you want to take us through how your bot builder works?
Yeah. So here, what we like to say to our customers is you can start very simply. Most of our customers, when we do a deep dive into the kinds of issues that they're dealing with on a daily basis, there are maybe 4 or 5 or 6 that bubble up to the top that represent a fairly large volume of cases. And within those, there usually emerge a few that are either very simple workflows or the front end of the process is very simple. So in this case, we're just showing a very simple bot builder for a shipping use case. And here, this is just a pretty simple linear flow. And at the end, you can see that there's a pass off to the agent. Now, if we just go to the next slide, Kate, here we can see sort of how this can be pushed into the consumer experience. And at the top here, again, a nice greeting message that says, you know, how can I help you? The consumer types in, I want to reschedule delivery. And then in this case, like you talked about just a moment ago, here's where a bot can ask for additional information. So at this time, it's trying to hone in on what kind of delivery and shipping issue you have. And it's, hey, I want to reschedule a delivery. And then a bot can very quickly and easily do things like picking a date and time to reschedule. And in this case, you know, it may or not mean that an agent gets involved. It can be handled completely from a bot. And again, that ability to escape the processing and go to an agent if in fact, you know, you aren't satisfied with how the process flow is going. And if we go to the next slide, I think, like you said, we are in early days, and we want to be able for the agents and the bots to seamlessly work together. And on the left side of the screen, you can see that an agent can take a conversation and move it right to a bot. And they can move it to a, you know, for a certain ticket type, different kinds of bots. So they have that power. I like to say that now every agent has their own assistant, and that assistant's the bot. And then on the right-hand side, you can see at the bottom here where an agent can just take over an issue. So they can proactively engage and take an issue potentially off a queue. And, you know, we think it's really important for brands to have this flexibility to be able to craft experiences maybe based upon customer lifetime value or urgency, if it's somewhat time sensitive or whatever it might be, or a certain promotion. All of those things can be easily worked into the flow of the experience for both the agent and the consumer. So I think while those are maybe some of the right ways to do it, there's also some things to look out for as well.
Yeah. And again, you alluded to it as you were showing us your bot builder, is a couple right ways to be able to use bots. Is you really have to realize that we are in the early days and understand what bots are good at and what bots are not good at. And bots are really good for automating those simple types of questions that you get very frequently. Password reset, an inventory search, an information request, like what gate is my plane taking off, or what time's my flight, or being able to collect information like in the example that I gave about renewing an auto insurance policy. But you also have to realize that there is so much focus on AI and automation today that the line of what bots are good at is rapidly moving. And we think within a year or a couple years, bots will be able to handle much more complex conversations in an easier way to be able to set up and deploy, like help you with product research or large consultative purchases. So again, the takeaway is the right way to use bots is, again, to help automate and streamline those simple, straightforward interactions that you are that your customers have today. Another way is, again, use chatbots for information collection, like Linda showed, where she said that it feels like an agent has a personal assistant all the time. It's like use bots in conjunction with agents during the agent's workflow to be able to handle the streamlined, easily reproducible tasks. For example, in this example that I have on the screen, the bot is authenticating the customer, understanding the customer's intent, getting the information from the customer, then handing off the interaction to the agent to work the problem. And then either the agent resolves the customer's problem and could hand it off to the bot again to close out the conversation or to send a feedback survey to. So that's another right way to use the bot. Another way is to make bots, to make agents more efficient. So I walked into a large telecommunications contact center a couple of years ago, and the IT director handed me this diagram and said, this is the IT ecosystem that our agents have to deal with. They have to use up to 20 different applications during their workday to be able to service customers. And I said, why do you need so many systems? And he said, well, they're disconnected from one another. There's data that has to be copied from one system to another system. And the agent, depending on the problem type, has to pull up customer profile information, policy information from all of these different systems. And again, this is work that can be done by the bot. And again, the bot can surface this information at the right time in the process. And it, again, helps agents be more effective, more efficient. And it also allows your agents to work on the harder work, the work that has a material impact to the customer relationship. And they're not spending their time reactively just looking for content. So what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that one of the first steps in order to deploy bots is to have a container for them. You know, the equivalent of bots on a phone is really the old IVR systems. With email, it's sort of, we like email because for a call center, you could really manage your volume because it was what we like to say asynchronous, or the flow was really an on and off kind of flow between a customer and the contact center. In this new world of messaging, we wanted to feel much like we have it feel between when we're messaging friends and family. Sometimes we're going back and forth very rapidly, and sometimes we go away. Life happens, and we leave the message, but the conversation persists. And this is the new way forward with messaging. The conversation persists. Sometimes it's live, sometimes it's off. And you see a history of the conversation. So you start to build that relationship with the brand. And this is what you're seeing sort of on the right-hand side of the screen. The other important part about messaging, the messaging experience, is the ability to re-engage the customer and bring them back into the conversation. So the brand can work for you while you're away. Let's just say you want an order status. There's no reason why you have to stay within the messaging experience to get your order status. If your child falls over, or you get another important incoming phone call, or whatever happens, you should be able to go do that and just simply get a message back that says, here's your order status. And then return to the conversation when you have another question or another issue. So this is what will drive the container for the bots to be able to perform in, for the AI to be able to power the bots. And this is probably the first step, which is to recognize messaging as a very, very powerful new paradigm, new channel. And then once you do that, then you have all the power behind AI and bots to be able to even improve the experience that much more. But we know, like, as you said today, that we want to be pragmatic about it and make sure that the bots are handling, when you first start with really simple use cases and then work your way up to the more and more complex.
Yeah, so this is, again, you got to realize the interactions that can be handled by bots in conjunction to messaging, self-service bots, agent-facing bots. What you don't want to do is put yet another layer of automation between you and an angry customer or an emotional customer. So, for example, if you are able, using sentiment analysis, to realize that your customer is upset or your customer is angry in a bot conversation, you don't want to keep them there. You want to be able to escalate directly to an agent. Or you think about, again, an agent-assisted conversation. You want to make sure that the agent is fully equipped with all the information that they have about the customer, and you're making life as easy as possible for the agent to interact with a customer. You, again, don't want to put layers of automation between you and a customer, especially if the customer is angry or anxious or emotional or has already tried to escalate to an agent. So they're coming at you feeling frustrated because they've already feel like they've wasted their time on a self-service site. They want to talk to an agent, they want to interact with an agent, and yet they're being presented with an automated conversation. Again, so use bots for the simple, reproducible tasks at first, and really understand the sentiment of the customer and escalate to or transition conversations to agent assisted conversations quickly if the customer is unhappy or if conversations go awry. So how do you get started with bots? Linda, what would
Yeah.
you tell your customers?
Yeah, what we're telling our customers is first, get ready to implement messaging as a channel, and as I was saying, a container for your bots, and really start to think about designing a frictionless workflow that, and really think about how the workflow works in that synchronous and asynchronous aspect. You know, when something is sort of a continuous conversation, when does the case close, for example? Do you wait a day or two? Do you try to re-engage the customer one time or two times before you say, okay, that part of the conversation is closed? And then, you know, when you push a CSAT, for example, survey to that customer. So there's some new things to think about as you're designing this new experience for consumers. And maybe we can just go to the next slide where you can just summarize some of the very easy things to do with bots and AI. First is think about using your bots to gather information. This is basically those routine things that were asked over and over again by agents. And then AI can route to the right queue for that conversation to continue, whether with a bot or with an agent. Knowledge, as we talked about, is a very, very easy way to get started. Get your FAQs in order, make them short and sweet and crisp, and then they'll be very easy for the AI engine to be able to surface them with very, very high levels of confidence. Then don't get too far ahead of believing what the AI engine can do when it comes to complex workflows. Really think about them more being powered by the bot themselves and designing decision tree oriented bots to guide the customer through a process, and really pick the ones that you know with high confidence that you understand, where that you can program in the predetermined workflow. And it's very easy to do this sort of without developers, so you can test and reconfigure if you get it wrong the first time. And then lastly, it's very easy to put like a customer satisfaction survey right in the end of the workflow, much like we get with Uber and Lyft. It's really convenient to give your feedback right within the experience itself. So we're seeing that high levels of responses to customer satisfaction surveys kind of happen within this new paradigm as well. So take advantage of that. You know, it's not just the consumer experience and customer experience to think about. As we see, like it will be greatly improved and changed over time. But there's a lot to think about as it relates to all the workers within the contact center themselves. And that may be one of the larger initiatives that you have to think through as you're taking advantage of these new channels and new technologies.
Yeah, and I think this is the most important facet of AI and automation. It's like, sure, it's all well and good that you can automate answers, but you're basically automating your generalists or your tier one agents. And so you have to really think very pragmatically about more and more as you add automation to your organization, to your business processes, how does the nature of your workforce change? So what Linda and I want to take you through are just some changes that we expect to see in the contact center workforce. And here's some data from a Forrester survey that we did about a year and a half ago. And we asked, what are the barriers to success with AI and automation? And 51% of companies that we ended up surveying say that they don't have the skills to implement and to operate AI-fueled technology. So what are the skills that you need? And first of all, to be able to run these AI projects, the skills can be broad and can be deep, and it's also dependent on how much AI is operationalized in vendor solutions that you purchase and that you deploy. Some vendors make it very easy to operationalize, to use AI in their solutions, and others it's a lot more difficult. And so you may have to staff up your AI talent. For example, data scientists, engineers, architects to be able to support your AI projects like chatbots, conversational designers to be able to design the conversation, or journey builders. And again, an AI project will only be successful if it's led by a business leader where you have clear metrics for projected outcomes. These are not technology-driven projects. These are AI projects. It's just another technology that you can use to deliver those differentiated experiences. So here, again, we talk about the new jobs that you're going to need to be able to support AI projects. For example, your data scientists, your data stewards, your application developers, and the skill set is very dependent on the vendor technology that you end up deploying. Again, some vendors make it easier than others to be able to operationalize AI. But you will need to build those conversations. And then you will also need to be able to, you put in bots and they need to be supervised. You need to understand what's working, what's not working, and address the points of failure. So a new skill set or a new job could be these bot supervisors that understand the points of failures and then tune, recraft dialogues, improve the bots to be able to handle more automation. What we also see is that as self-service gets better, combination of bots and knowledge management, um, these are the questions that generalists and tier one agents used to handle. So these skill sets will end up shifting to the agents that handle the harder work. Because again, automation and AI will be able to address all the simple, all the reproducible work. So the harder work will get into your contact center. So you'll see the harder problems getting, again, being routed to your associates or your agents that were handled by your tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 agents. You will, again, because these are the hard questions, you may even need subject matter experts to help you solve these problems. And then knowledge workers, knowledge management will become more important. So the jobs to be able to create content, curate content will become more important. Um, Linda, any comments on this?
Yeah, as we are seeing bots and AI deployed, our customers are starting to rethink some of the workload. And one interesting, just new process that is emerging within some of our retail customers is to think about how to use bots to smooth out that spike that they see during the holiday times. And can they front end some of these conversations with bots so that they don't have to deploy so many extra agents at times when the workload goes up? And we all know that it's very hard to hire seasonal workers, and with the economy going the way it is, it's very difficult to find the right folks, to get them trained. By the time you get them trained, it's the season's over. So bots are a really interesting approach there. The other really interesting aspect of this too is how do customers of ours, the brands, use the gig economy to make up some of their agent staff. In a couple of cases, our customers are leveraging experts within their communities to push questions or conversations to them that then get answered. And instead of it being just a community response, these are actually people who have an agency relationship with the brand. And then Chatbooks is a customer of ours. If you don't know of them, they gather up photos from your social media feeds and make physical books, memory books for their customers. Well, all of their agents are working moms who stay at home with their young children typically and have very, very flexible schedules. And it's because of this sort of message-oriented approach with their customers and their agents that they're able to do this. So very exciting new methods to deliver customer support. Not only new technology paradigms, but new working paradigms too.
Yeah, absolutely. This gig economy labor point that you made is going to become increasingly important. It's not only that you can use community members to help offload some questions, but as well, you think about the really hard questions that get into your contact center. These may be solved not necessarily by agents anymore, but they will be subject matter experts or product experts. And this person may not only want to work for your company, but may want to work as contract labor where they've established a brand, an area of expertise, and they want to work across many different companies, again, as a gig economy worker, basically as a contract labor. So I really think that this gig economy within the contact center is really going to take off.
Yeah, we're seeing that, and some of our couple of our customers are dabbling in that right now. Speaking of Helpshift, for those of you who may not know much about our company, we offer an end-to-end customer support solution, everything from the agent dashboard through all of the event management, time-based automations, queue managements, and the consumer experience, all powered by AI and bots. We work with some very, very large brands throughout the globe. And we are delivering sort of at very large scale these conversations to the consumers, working hand in hand with bots and agents. And we're headquartered here in San Francisco, and we have about 150 employees today and growing very rapidly. So at this point in time, we have a few minutes, and I thought maybe we could just turn it over for a couple of questions that have come in, Kate. Would that be okay with you?
Sure, as long as I can answer them.
Yeah, one question was, if I have a small team, let's say if I have a team of maybe 50 agents or less, am I still going to benefit from this kind of technology?
Absolutely. A couple things. First of all, mine your call records, your contact logs, and what you're typically going to find is that 80% of the volume is coming in from 20% of questions. These reproducible questions that customers hit these issues over and over again. And they're pretty reproducible, they're pretty standardized. You can write a piece of content, an FAQ, serve it up in, for example, a bot interaction, and you're automating a huge amount of your reproducible questions. And so it's going to offload your agents. So say you have 50 agents, that's a lot of agents. What do you do with these agents? A couple of them will be used to help manage bots. But you could look at, for example, other areas of automation, or shift them into perhaps more consultative roles in customer service, or roles that, again, help build better customer relations, or helping manage the ongoing satisfaction of your customers, that those high touch activities that are critically more valuable than answering password reset questions or inventory questions. I mean, what's your customer base doing, Linda?
Yeah, and I think that once we see this automation occur and there's a choice between maybe reducing the number of agents or being more proactive with the capacity, the newfound capacity that people are finding. And, you know, a lot of folks kind of go underserved or unserved. And, you know, maybe what you do is you leverage your own data science team to find those behaviors which would say, if we did engage with this group of customers, we would be able to monetize them further or drive higher satisfaction rates. Or maybe we can deliver them or push to them some piece of information based upon their behavior that they should know. And that's where this newfound productivity kind of comes into play. There's another question here, just I think we've got time for maybe one more. The question is, what results can you expect to see with bots and AI in 30, 60, or 180 days? And I can take a quick crack at it, and then Kate, it would be good for you to chime in here too. You know, I think for us, we are a platform where I like to say mere mortals can set up and configure and deploy the solution. So we have a fairly large customer who is able to get up and running across 4 BPOs, multiple languages, 9 languages, and 800 agents in a matter of a couple of months. So, you know, for them, they're seeing just like tremendous benefit from predicting the cases, being able to classify and predict and route. That is helping them sort of stem the tide, as you said earlier in the presentation, of the growth. Like they're growing very quickly, and at some point in time, they're just like, we can't continue to put agents on the ground because it's just very difficult to even find them. And bots are coming, well, probably in the next 30 days, bots will be live, and more tricks to be able to kind of reach that equilibrium, which then they can decide, you know, what do they do with the newfound productivity that will continue to grab onto as time goes on. So pretty exciting. And I think my message to folks that are sitting on the sidelines is kind of jump in, as we said, with some of those pretty easy things to get up and running with that are very low risk.
Yeah, and I think case classification is a great use case because it can be, the results can be quantified. So I did some work with a large PNC insurer that was getting about 5,000 calls per month. And agents were spending up to 10 seconds per case classifying the case. And they automated that. And not only did they find that cases were classified more accurately, but shaving off 10 seconds off 5,000 calls per month ended up resulting in millions of dollars of cost savings. And it was something that was easy to quantify and then take to your CFO and make a business case for the next iterations of AI within the contact center. And just that use case fueled all their AI efforts. So don't only think about AI as, you know, externally facing chatbots, customer facing chatbots, but there's a lot of this low level process work like routing, case classification, and even agent facing knowledge bots that can really deliver quantifiable results to your company. And you can get up and running really quickly. And they don't have to be perfect, especially if they're agent facing. They don't have to be perfect. They have to work most of the time. And you're able to see a real benefit. And agents like it because agents feel like they're being supported. Like you said, it feels like every agent has an assistant.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Kate, for joining us today. And as I said at the beginning of the webinar, we will be following up with additional information and the recording and the slides. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. And thanks, Linda.